Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. I know that, I'm competing with lunch here, so I really do appreciate you coming. So today I'm going to talk to you about centralizing user activity. So have you found yourself having to investigate suspicious user activity? And you might be logged into numerous places. You might be looking at AWS, but there might also be some data that you need to check out on-prem or somewhere else, or a third-party federation service. Do you find that a challenge, having to remember where to log on to, where the data resides, etc.? So my name is Anya Develta. I'm a specialist solutions architect in the cloud operations team. And I'm going to talk to you today how to centralize that user activity using AWS CloudTrail Lake. So let's first think about the problem that we're trying to solve here. So let's just say you have been asked to investigate something happening. So it could be like you've discovered that a key that was belonging to somebody who's left the organization has been used, and you need to find out, was it used somewhere else? Or a resource configuration has become non-compliant. Obviously, you need your resources to be compliant. Or a database instance has disappeared. So you're left asking all these questions. What happened? How did it happen? Was this an honest mistake by a human being? Was it malicious? Was it just an automation? You've got all these questions, and again, you might have to look in numerous places, and typically you want to find this answer as soon as you can. So why is this even a challenge? So if you run your service in AWS and you look over to CloudTrail, you'll see there's a lot of activity that happens in an account. So the activity will be coming from users, it will be coming from AWS services, it's activity that's taking place in the console, using the SDKs. It's going to be a lot of it. But the thing is, you probably won't be running just in one account, you'll be running in many accounts. So actually there is a lot of activity in many accounts. But that activity won't just be recorded in CloudTrail. There might be some relevant information over an AWS config as well. So not only are you looking in many accounts, you're also looking in many places just in AWS. But then the activity could be taking place somewhere else. You might be using a federation third-party service to log in. You need to know if somebody has been logging in through there as well. Or you might be using some automation to deploy. You might have a database instance on-prem, or you might have a VM running in another cloud. All these devices are creating activity that you need to look at. And that's really, really hard for a human to actually correlate and analyze and remember where this data resides. And on top of that, you need to make sure that data is immutable, right? Because if it isn't, then you might never find what you were looking for if somebody's deleted it. Okay, so that's the challenge. So before we move into the solution, let's just have a really quick look what activity data might look like. So here's just an example CloudTrail event that you might have seen before. So again, CloudTrail events record activity from users and services in the console, in the SDKs, and the APIs. And the CloudTrail event will show you who has done something, when they've done that, what they did, how they did it, and what was the result. So in this example, basically a user called Alice created an IAM user called Bob. Here's an example of activity recorded in AWS config. So that was somebody enabling encryption on an S3 bucket. And this is activity somewhere else. So basically, this is just a simple screenshot of a barlog secure file on a Linux server. So if you're familiar with Linux, it records activities such as SSH sessions being opened or users being added. And somebody created a user called Anya Demo. I wonder who that was. So that's what the activity looks like. So okay, there's a lot of activity. It's all over different accounts. So you know the problem and the challenge. So what's the solution? I'm a solutions architect. The only answer I will ever give you is depends. Okay? We would have to work backwards. An anti-pattern would be if you really want to manage the indices or you really want to kind of manage the backend yourself, then CloudTrail Lake probably wouldn't be the answer. But otherwise, if those challenges and that problem resonates, then CloudTrail Lake will probably really help you fix that issue. So for those of you who are not familiar with CloudTrail Lake, just a very quick recap. CloudTrail Lake is a managed audit data lake. It allows you to capture, store, and analyze security and audit events. It's turnkey. There's some queries there to get you started. You don't have to spend extra time on the ETL for optimization of the queries. And it's immutable. It's read-only. As you ingest the event, you can't change it again. So CloudTrail Lake will take sources from AWS, such as CloudTrail, AWS config. You can also see events there from Evidence Finder and Audit Manager. But you can actually extend CloudTrail Lake to take in non-AWS sources. So again, that could be, it could be an AWS source, but outside of your account, running somewhere else. Could be an on-prem instance somewhere. Could be a database server. It could be a third party, such as Okta or GitHub as well. So you can now bring all that data together to have it in one place, so you can audit and analyze it in one place as well. So for the sake of this session, we're going to talk about those external integrations. And there are two types of integrations that you can have, those custom integrations from non-AWS data sources. The first one is the partner integrations or direct integrations. So there's some examples of the partners that have this integration. So basically what you do with those ones, you create a data store, you configure a few things on the partner side of things, the partner will put the events into the correct schema that CloudTrail Lake expects, and you can ingest those events. But for those database instances, EC2 instances, other third-party or AWS sources, you can have a custom integration, which is also called a solution integration. So there, you will deploy an application yourself. It'll run in an AWS account, and will call the put audit events API for you and put those events over to CloudTrail Lake. Again, you would probably do that centrally. So you would probably collect the logs that you want to send over to CloudTrail Lake, say in an S3 bucket, and then you'd probably deploy a Lambda function or other automation to do that put audit events API call for you. But for the sake of the demo, we're going to keep it a bit simpler. So the demo architecture today is really, really straightforward. So we're going to have a remote VM running somewhere, in reality in another AWS account, but it can run anywhere. It could be on-prem, it could be in another cloud. That VM has a log file called var log secure, and it's going to run a script that's going to do that put audit events API call. To do that, it's going to need to know an ARN of a CloudTrail Lake channel. So this is the integration channel that it's going to need. It's going to move those events into a CloudTrail Lake event data store, and then from there, we will be able to query those events. So let's do that. OK, let's go over to the console. Okie dokie. I'm in the CloudTrail console now, so I'm just going to zoom in so actually I can see what I'm doing. Needed 2 hands for that. And I have some data stores there already, event data stores. So I have one here that I have for my CloudTrail events. It's an org one, so it just ingests events from my organization for CloudTrail. I have one for config, and there's another one that I've got that I'll show you shortly. But to create an integration, our custom integration data store, I would select Create Data Store. I'd give it a name. So from here, if I was selecting AWS sources, I'd select CloudTrail, I'd select configuration items, but I am going to select events from integrations. And again, here, if I wanted to choose one of those partner ones, there's the list. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do a custom one. I can name my channel, and then I can create it. It is turnkey, a couple of screens and it's done. But I've got one that I prepared earlier. That's probably gonna be quicker for you to see. Oh, there we go. So basically, the custom integration that I have, it's very, the details are really, really sparse. There's the retention on it. And under here, you've got this integration section. So this is the channel that I mentioned before. So basically, all I need to know is the channel ARN. And again, I'm sorry, my laptop's also decided that it doesn't want to connect to the network today. But for the custom integration, we just have this channel ARN. So I'm going to just take a note of it. You can see it ends in 1.1. It's going to be relevant later. So now, now that I have the custom data store, custom integration data store and the channel, I'm going to show you the VM. So this is a managed instance that I have. So this is why this is the systems manager console, fleet manager. I've got an instance that I'm managing remotely. So I'm going to connect over to it. Again, if you're not familiar with Linux, that's fine. It's just an example of user activity. It doesn't have to be a Linux instance. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to add a user on a Linux instance. And we're going to look what it looks like in an event data store. OK. So basically, what was supposed to happen, we were going to add a user. And we were going to see that user appear in the varlog secure file. But let's just hope the rest of the demo works. I'm going to show you what I've had to do to push the data over from the instance to CloudTrail Lake. So to do that, when we eventually get in, we're going to use a Python script. So this is the Python script in VS Code. Let me zoom in again. Hopefully you can see that a bit better. So again, it's a simple script. I'm not going to go through it line by line. But what I have to do is I need to initialize the AWS profile because I'm pushing events to CloudTrail Lake from a remote location, so I need to have credentials to do that. So I'm just initializing the profile that I'm going to use. Initialize the CloudTrail client so I can talk over to the CloudTrail APIs. I define the file path to process the log files from. So the log files will live in this little folder called varlog CTL export. I then start looping through the files. I declare instance ID as remote VM. And actually, if I just scroll up again, can you see here I've declared channel ARN. So that's the channel ARN I showed you before. It ends in 1.1. So basically, again, if you were doing this en masse, you would be dynamically populating these values. This is just to keep this simple and kind of show you how this is done. I then read in the log file 100 lines at a time. So this is the looping through 100 lines. And then, as I mentioned, CloudTrail Lake will expect the event data in a certain format. So it's expecting to be in this event schema. So this is where I actually put it into the correct format. So this is the kind of JSON documents that I expect. So I'm extracting that from the log data. And then finally, I do the put audit events API call, send 100 lines of the data, and specify the channel ARN. So the data will land on the other side. OK. So I still can't connect to my instance, but thankfully, I've populated this data store earlier. So I'm going to show you that bit instead. OK, so I'm back in the CloudTrail Lake console, and I'm under the query section here. So I can select to query the data stores that I have there. I'm going to query the demo data store. And if you're, again, not familiar with the console, there's some sample queries here that I can use. And I can also save my own queries. And because there's a lot of typing, I have saved the queries that I wanted to show you today. OK, let me zoom out a bit. OK, so I'm going to run a select star. Obviously, that's probably not the best query for me to run, because it's going to give me a lot of random information. But let's do it anyway. So I'm going to let it run and hope that it actually works. I'm going to have to abandon that part of the demo, because you can see it's not behaving. So I'm just going to basically explain that once you know the search query, for example, if you know that a suspicious IP address was trying to get into your service, you in one place would be able to search the config queries for that IP address, but at the same time, you'll be able to go over and search your custom integration to see if there was any activity coming in from there, whereas before, you would have had to look in numerous places. Again, I'm really sorry that we're having IT problems today, but what I will show you is some links, and hopefully that will redeem it a bit, and it will help you. So the first QR code is a blog post by my colleagues. They've written a solution which will use Systems Manager automation, and what it does is it picks up the varlog secure files from EC2 instances running the run command. It then processes the files using Systems Manager automation and then puts them into CloudTrail Lake. The Python script that they use will look awfully familiar, because it's the Python script that I used for the demo that I showed you. So that's the first one. The second one is CloudTrail Lake sample queries that we have in GitHub. So there are sample queries in the console, but there are more sample queries in the GitHub repo. So those queries have been written by people at AWS, but also by customers. So if you are already using CloudTrail Lake and you have some queries, please do submit them as well. And then lastly, if you're not familiar with CloudTrail Lake, there's a link to the workshop for CloudTrail Lake, how to create data stores, etc. OK, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.